My brothers and sisters, let me tell you something right at the start. You are closer than you think. You've been climbing, pushing, struggling, and praying, and the enemy keeps whispering, "It's not worth it. Quit. Give up." But I came here today to announce to you, don't quit now, because the promise is almost here. You see, the most intense pressure comes right before the breakthrough. A mother knows this in the delivery room. When the labor pains are at their strongest, it means the baby is about to be born. And some of you, under the sound of my voice, are in the delivery room of your destiny. You're in the final stretch of what God promised you. That's why the warfare has intensified. That's why the pressure is mounting. That's why the attacks seem relentless. Because the enemy knows you're about to step into what God has already spoken over your life. I don't know who this is for, but you've been saying, "Lord, I can't take another step. I've done all I can do. I don't see anything changing." But hear me, when you don't see movement in the natural, trust that God is working in the unseen. Just because you can't see the promise doesn't mean it isn't coming. Faith is not walking by sight. It's walking by trust. Don't confuse the silence of God with the absence of God. Sometimes he's quiet because he's working. Sometimes he pulls you into a wilderness season, not to abandon you, but to prepare you. And if you quit in the wilderness, you'll never step into the promised land. Look at the children of Israel. They wandered for 40 years. Many died in the desert, not because God didn't have the promise ready, but because they quit in their faith before they ever arrived. Don't let that be your story. Don't let discouragement rob you of destiny. You've come too far, cried too many tears, fought too many battles, and endured too much pain to give up now. The promise is almost here. And when it shows up, it won't just bless you. It will bless everyone connected to you. Your perseverance is not just for your breakthrough. It's for your children, your family, your future. The oil that flows from your endurance will anoint the next generation. So hold on. Encourage yourself in the Lord like David did. Wipe the tears from your face, square your shoulders, and declare out loud, "I will not quit. I will not faint. I will not give up. Because the promise is near." I dare you to praise God like it's already done. Shout like the walls have already fallen. Rejoice like the chains have already broken. Because what he spoke over your life is still true, and it's closer than you think. Don't quit now, because the promise is almost here. When you are standing on the edge of your breakthrough, life will often feel like it is pressing you harder than it ever has before. The weight seems unbearable, the stress unexplainable, and the resistance relentless. That is not a sign to quit. It is a sign that you are closer than you realize. The pressure you feel right now is not punishment. It is proof that something is about to break loose in your favor. The enemy does not waste his ammunition on people who are going nowhere. He comes against you the hardest when he knows you are about to step into the very thing that God promised you. The closer you get to the finish line, the stronger the wind blows against you. But the presence of the storm is not to stop you. It is to test your determination to see if you will endure until the victory is in your hands. Think about a woman in labor. When she is in the early stages of pregnancy, the process seems manageable. There are changes, there are adjustments, but nothing compared to what happens when the child is about to come forth. The greatest pain does not appear in the first trimester or the second. It comes right at the end, when the body is contracting, when the pressure is squeezing, when the tears are flowing and the cries are loudest. That is when she knows the baby is almost here. It is the intensity of the pain that signals the nearness of the promise. And in the same way, when your life feels like contractions are hitting you one after another, when your back is against the wall, and you don't know how you will make it another day, it is not the time to quit. It is the time to push. It is the time to remind yourself that the pain is not permanent. It is producing something greater than you imagined. There is a strange paradox about breakthrough. The more you press toward it, the more resistance you will feel. If you were walking in the wrong direction, everything would be easy. You would feel no fight, no resistance, no battle. But the moment you start walking in alignment with God's plan, the resistance shows up, because hell does not want you to get to where heaven is calling you. And the greatest mistake you could make is to misinterpret the resistance as a sign to stop. Resistance is not rejection. Resistance is not denial. Resistance is confirmation that you are headed in the right direction. That is why the scriptures remind us not to grow weary in well-doing. For in due season we shall reap if we faint not. The enemy knows he cannot stop the promise, so he tries to stop you from enduring until the promise comes. He wants you to walk away in the ninth inning, to surrender when you are only a few steps from the finish line. He wants you to think the pain means failure, when in reality the pain means fullness. It means the blessing is maturing, the harvest is ripening, the answer is forming, and all you need is the perseverance to keep standing, keep believing, keep trusting. Think of a runner in a marathon. At the beginning of the race, they feel strong, they feel confident, they feel like they can endure anything. But toward the end of the race, when the finish line is within sight, the body begins to scream, the muscles begin to ache, the lungs begin to burn. It feels like they cannot make it another step. That is when so many collapse and give up, though they are only yards away from victory. What separates those who finish from those who fall is not strength alone. It is the refusal to quit under pressure. And that is exactly where many of us are spiritually. You are in the last stretch of the race. You are tired, yes. You are weary, yes. You are under attack, yes. But if you can just hold on a little longer, the finish line will appear before your eyes. It is easy to quit in the heat of battle. It is easy to misinterpret the struggle as evidence that nothing is happening. But I came to remind you that the enemy only fights hardest when he knows the outcome is about to shift in your favor. Pharaoh never chased Israel until they were walking out of Egypt. Goliath never appeared until David stepped onto the battlefield. The lion's den did not open until Daniel refused to compromise. Pressure has always been the signal that promotion is near. So if you feel the weight of the fight pressing down on you, don't take it as defeat. Take it as a divine announcement that the breakthrough you've been waiting for is closer than ever before. What the enemy wants you to do is stop pushing. He wants you to abort the mission before the delivery. But here this pain is temporary and promise is eternal. If you let the pain stop you, you forfeit the eternal reward for a momentary relief. But if you endure the pain, you will step into the reward that makes the pain worth it all. No mother remembers the agony of labor when she holds her child in her arms. No runner remembers the burning muscles when they feel the victory of crossing the finish line. No believer will remember the tears, the trials, and the struggles when they step into the fullness of what God has prepared. That is why you cannot quit now. The pressure is not to kill you. It is to birth you. The storm is not to destroy you. It is to deliver you. The fight is not to stop you. It is to shape you. You are not being pressed because you are weak. You are being pressed because there is oil inside of you that cannot come out any other way. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Olive oil flows only when the olive is crushed. Gold is purified only in the fire. And your destiny will shine brightest when you endure the pressure of the process. So don't misread the signs. The opposition is confirmation. The pressure is proof. The intensity is evidence. You are closer than you think. The hardest part of the battle is not the beginning. It is the end. And the fact that you are feeling the heat right now is not a reason to quit. It is a reason to stand stronger, fight harder, believe deeper, and push like never before, because your promise is almost here. When life feels silent and still, it can be one of the most discouraging seasons you will ever walk through. You pray and hear nothing. You cry out, and the heavens seem shut. You look for evidence, for some sign that God is moving, but the silence feels deafening. In those moments, the temptation is to think that because you don't see anything, nothing is happening. But just because you cannot see movement does not mean God is not working. The unseen hand of God is always in motion, orchestrating, aligning, and preparing in ways you cannot yet perceive. Faith is not about walking by sight. Faith is about trusting that even in silence, God is still faithful. When a seed is planted in the ground, nothing seems to be happening. If you stand over it day after day, you will grow impatient because you see no sprout, no movement, no change. But beneath the soil, something miraculous is taking place. Roots are spreading, foundations are forming, and life is developing in the unseen. If you dig it up too soon, you will never see the fruit it was meant to produce. The seed needs darkness to germinate. The promise needs silence to mature. And in your life, what feels like inactivity is often God laying the groundwork beneath the surface so that when your promise finally emerges, it will be strong enough to last. We often equate noise with progress and silence with abandonment. But the truth is, some of the greatest works of God are done in silence. Think about the caterpillar that transforms into a butterfly. The process happens hidden inside the cocoon, where no one can see, where no sound is heard, where the struggle is invisible. Yet in that quiet, unseen place, wings are forming, strength is building, and transformation is taking place. If you judge the process by what you could see, you would assume nothing was happening. But in reality, the greatest miracle was unfolding where eyes could not penetrate. That is why you cannot despise the seasons of silence. They are not wasted seasons, they are working seasons. Silence is where character is shaped. Silence is where endurance is forged. Silence is where faith is tested and proven. Anyone can trust God when they see miracles happening every day. But true faith is trusting Him when nothing seems to be moving. True faith is believing that the God who spoke the promise has not forgotten you, even when you cannot trace His hand. True faith says, though I cannot see it, I believe He is still working on my behalf. Remember the story of Joseph. God gave him a dream of greatness, of influence, of purpose. Yet after the dream, Joseph found himself betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and locked away in a prison cell. For years, there was no sign that the dream would come true. There was no evidence that God was working. To anyone watching from the outside, Joseph's dream had died. But in the unseen, God was arranging every detail. He was using betrayal to position him, slavery to develop him, prison to prepare him. And at the appointed time, Joseph was elevated from the prison to the palace in a single day. What looked like silence was really strategy. What looked like abandonment was alignment. God was working all along in the unseen. You may be in a season where nothing makes sense. You look around and see no progress, no shift, no open door. You are tempted to ask, God, where are you? But the absence of noise is not the absence of God. He is the God who can split seas, shake mountains, and raise the dead. But He is also the God who moves quietly behind the scenes. He is weaving together details you don't even know you need yet. He is protecting you from opportunities you aren't ready to handle. He is withholding things that would crush you if they came too soon. Silence is not God ignoring you. Silence is God protecting you. Look at how an artist works on a masterpiece. Often the canvas sits covered, hidden away, while the painter adds details stroke by stroke. To the casual observer, it may seem like nothing is happening. But when the cover is lifted and the painting revealed, you see the beauty that was forming in secret. That is what God does in your life. He is painting details you cannot see. He is adding strokes of grace, shades of mercy, and colors of purpose in places you didn't even realize. And when the time is right, He will unveil what He has been creating all along. The enemy wants you to confuse silence with absence, because he knows if he can convince you that God has left you, he can cause you to quit before your promise arrives. But you must remind yourself of what you know even when you don't feel it. He said He will never leave you nor forsake you. He said His plans for you are good, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope. Those promises don't expire in silence. They don't disappear in stillness. They are still active, still alive, still working on your behalf. Sometimes God is silent because He is teaching you to listen differently. He wants you to rely less on what you hear and more on what you know. He wants you to learn to walk by faith and not by sight. Silence forces you to dig deeper into His Word, to stand firmer on His promises, and to trust more fully in His timing. It strips away the crutches of outward confirmation so that your faith can mature into something unshakable. When you learn to trust Him in the silence, you become unmovable when the noise returns. There are also times when God is silent because He is working on others connected to your promise. Your breakthrough might require someone else to be in position. And while you wait, He is moving them into alignment. Your destiny might involve doors that only open when certain people are ready to receive you. While you are waiting in silence, God is arranging connections, stirring hearts, and orchestrating timing so that everything lines up perfectly. The silence is not empty. It is filled with preparation. When Jesus was placed in the tomb, it looked like silence. The disciples thought it was over. Heaven seemed quiet. The promise looked dead. But in that silence, the greatest work of all was being accomplished. Death was being defeated, sin was being conquered. Victory was being secured. On the third day, the silence was broken, and resurrection power was revealed. What they thought was inactivity was actually the most powerful move of God in history. And that same God is still working in silence today. So don't lose heart when you can't see movement. Don't give up when your prayers seem unanswered. Don't walk away when your promise feels delayed. The silence is not a sign that God has abandoned you. It is a sign that He is preparing something greater than you can imagine. And when the time is right, the unseen will break forth into the seen, and you will realize that He was working all along. Faith without endurance is fragile. It may shine bright for a moment, but if it cannot withstand the test of time, it will never carry you to the place of promise. The journey God calls us to is not a sprint. It is a long walk that requires perseverance, patience, and the ability to believe even when nothing makes sense. Endurance is not glamorous. It does not always feel good, but it is necessary. Without it, you will find yourself giving up too soon, walking away too quickly, and forfeiting blessings that were meant for you simply because you couldn't outlast the wilderness. Think about the children of Israel. God had promised them a land flowing with milk and honey. He had already spoken it, already declared it, already secured it. But though the promise was real, the journey was not easy. The wilderness became their testing ground. And what was supposed to be an 11-day journey turned into 40 years because they did not endure in their faith. They complained when they didn't see water. They doubted when they didn't see food. They panicked when they didn't see Moses. Over and over, they let their sight dictate their belief. And because of it, an entire generation died in the desert, never stepping into what God had prepared. It wasn't that God failed them. It was that they failed to endure. Endurance means holding on to faith when the evidence seems to disappear. It means believing God is still good when the circumstances look bad. It means trusting His word even when His voice feels silent. Anybody can shout when the Red Sea parts. Anybody can rejoice when manna falls from heaven. But can you still believe when the desert stretches out before you, when your feet ache from the sand, when the sun scorches your back, and when tomorrow looks just like yesterday? That is where real faith is proven. It is not proven in the moments of miracles. It is proven in the moments of monotony. It is not proven when everything is changing. It is proven when nothing seems to change at all. The wilderness is not designed to kill you. It is designed to build you. It is in the wilderness that you learn to depend fully on God. It is in the wilderness that idols are stripped away, pride is broken, and trust is deepened. God knows the promise will destroy you if your character cannot sustain it, and endurance is the classroom where character is developed. It is one thing to believe God for a promise. It is another thing to endure long enough to receive it. Abraham was given a promise of a son. Year after year passed, and no son came. The promise looked impossible as he and Sarah grew older. The natural evidence screamed against the word of God, but Abraham endured. He staggered not at the promise of God through unbelief, but was strong in faith, giving glory to God. His endurance allowed him to hold Isaac in his arms, and through that endurance, a nation was born. If he had given up when the years stretched long, he would have missed the manifestation of what God declared. Endurance is not passive waiting, it is active trust. It is choosing to keep walking even when the path is unclear. It is praying when the answers don't come, worshiping when the feelings aren't there, and holding steady when everything in you wants to run away. Endurance requires resilience, and resilience is built through resistance. If life were always easy, you would never develop the muscles of faith needed to carry the weight of your destiny. Resistance strengthens you. Delays prepare you. Hardship develops you. What you call waiting is really training. There is something about enduring faith that shakes the kingdom of darkness. The enemy throws everything he can at you. Disappointments, delays, detours, discouragements, hoping you will quit before the promise arrives. But when you keep standing after every storm, when you keep walking after every setback, when you keep believing after every disappointment, you become dangerous. You send a message to hell itself that nothing can shake the foundation of your faith. That is why James writes, "Count it all joy when you fall into diverse trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance." Trials are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to produce endurance within you so that you may be complete, lacking nothing. Job is another example. Everything was stripped from him, his wealth, his health, his children. His friends accused him, his wife told him to curse God and die, yet Job endured. He wrestled, he questioned, he lamented, but he did not walk away from his faith. And at the end of his endurance, God restored him with double what he had lost. Job teaches us that endurance does not mean you never struggle. It means you refuse to surrender your trust. It means even through tears, you hold on. Even through pain, you stay faithful. Even through silence, you cling to hope. Endurance also protects you from the trap of comparison. When the promise seems delayed, it is easy to look at others and wonder why their breakthrough came before yours. But endurance teaches you to trust your own journey, to understand that God's timing for your life is perfect. Someone else may be running faster, someone else may be celebrating sooner, but if you will endure, your time will come. And when it does, it will not be late. It will be right on time.
Look at Jesus. He endured the cross, despising the shame, for the joy set before him. He did not give up when the pain of the nails pierced his hands. He did not quit when the weight of sin crushed his soul. He endured because he knew that beyond the suffering was glory. Beyond the cross was resurrection. Beyond the pain was redemption. And now, because he endured, we stand free. His endurance purchased our salvation. If he could endure the cross for us, surely we can endure the trials for him. Endurance is the bridge between promise and fulfillment. Without it, you stop halfway. Without it, you forfeit what was meant to be yours. With it, you step into the fullness of what God ordained. That is why Paul declares, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. Notice he didn't say the race was easy. He didn't say the fight was painless. He said he finished. He endured. And that is what gave him the crown of righteousness laid up for him. The danger of quitting in the wilderness is that you never see the land flowing with milk and honey. You settle for manna when God had grapes. You settle for survival when God had abundance. You settle for wilderness wandering when God had victory waiting. The enemy knows he cannot cancel God's promise, but he tries to wear you down so that you cancel yourself by quitting. But if you endure, if you refuse to let go, if you keep walking, you will eventually see what he spoke come to pass. Endurance also teaches you to rely on daily bread. The children of Israel received manna one day at a time. They could not store it up. They could not hoard it. They had to trust that God would provide again tomorrow. That is what endurance looks like. Learning to live day by day, step by step, trusting that the God who kept you yesterday will keep you today, and the God who keeps you today will sustain you tomorrow. Endurance is built when you realize you don't need to see the whole journey to take the next step. You just need to trust the one who holds the map. Sometimes endurance looks like standing still. Other times, it looks like crawling forward with tears in your eyes. Endurance does not mean you never stumble. It means when you fall, you get back up. When you fail, you try again. When you are weary, you lean on his strength. It means that quitting is not an option because you know the promise is worth the process. So let endurance have its perfect work in you. Let it strip away the impatience, the doubt, the fear. Let it build in you a faith that cannot be shaken, a trust that cannot be broken, a hope that cannot be extinguished. Because those who endure to the end, those who refuse to quit, those who keep the faith even in the wilderness, they are the ones who inherit the promise.
When God calls you to endure, it is never just about you. The fight you are in, the tears you shed, the battles you press through, they are not only shaping your destiny, they are shaping the lives of people connected to you. Your breakthrough is bigger than your own story. Your perseverance has a generational impact. What you choose to endure, what you choose to overcome, will release blessing, strength, and opportunity for those who come after you. Endurance is not only for survival, it is for legacy. Think of David. When he stood in front of Goliath, the victory was not just about his personal triumph. When David swung that sling and the giant fell, all of Israel was released from fear. One man's endurance to step onto the battlefield broke chains for an entire nation. If David had chosen to quit, to shrink back like the others, the people of God would have remained paralyzed by intimidation. Your willingness to keep fighting when others give up can become the very thing that inspires deliverance for those around you. When you conquer your giant, you teach your children and everyone watching that giants can be defeated. Your endurance sends a message to your family, to your community, to everyone connected to your life. When they see you hold on to faith in the face of storms, when they watch you refuse to give up even after setbacks, they learn that perseverance is possible. Many of the people watching you will never read a Bible, but they are reading your life. They are studying your endurance. They are being encouraged by the fact that you are still standing. And one day, your story will be their blueprint for how to endure when it's their turn to face trials. Consider Ruth. She endured the loss of her husband, the pain of displacement, and the uncertainty of her future. Yet she refused to abandon Naomi. Her endurance brought her to Boaz. And through that connection, she became part of the lineage of Jesus Christ himself. Her endurance wasn't just about her. It was about birthing something that would change the course of history. If Ruth had quit, if she had chosen comfort over commitment, she would have forfeited her place in the greatest redemptive story ever told. Your endurance is not just about your own blessing. It's about aligning yourself with the bigger story God is writing. Your perseverance is planting seeds you cannot yet see. The prayers you pray today, the tears you cry in secret, the faith you hold on to in silence, they are leaving an inheritance of faith for your children and their children. Timothy, one of Paul's most trusted sons in the faith, was strengthened because of the faith first found in his grandmother Lois and his mother Eunice. Their endurance in believing, their faithfulness in trusting, laid a foundation that Timothy could stand on. Never underestimate the power of enduring faith passed from one generation to the next. Your faith today might be the very reason your grandchildren walk in freedom tomorrow. Endurance also breaks cycles. Perhaps you come from a family line where quitting was the norm, where fear ruled, where doubt crippled dreams. When you endure, when you choose to press forward in faith, you break that cycle. You declare with your life that it stops with you. What stopped your parents won't stop you. What held back your family line will not hold back your children. By enduring, you shift the trajectory of your lineage. The curse ends and the blessing begins. Your perseverance creates a new inheritance. Think about how many people are tied to your breakthrough. When Peter stood on the day of Pentecost and preached with boldness, thousands were saved. That moment was not just about Peter finding his voice. It was about entire communities being transformed. But remember, Peter had to endure his own failures first. He denied Jesus 3 times. He wept bitterly. He could have quit in shame. Yet he endured. He got back up. He pressed forward. And because he did, the church was birthed in power. What if your endurance is the key to unlocking revival in your family, in your workplace, in your city? What if your refusal to quit becomes the spark that lights a fire in others? The oil that flows from your endurance does not just anoint you, it anoints those around you. When Mary of Bethany broke her alabaster jar of oil and poured it on Jesus, the fragrance filled the room. The blessing of her sacrifice reached everyone present. In the same way, the fragrance of your endurance will spread beyond you. People will walk into the room of your testimony and breathe in hope because you did not give up. They will see your scars and realize they can survive their own battles. They will hear your story and believe their story isn't over. Even creation itself is waiting for your endurance. Paul said in Romans that all creation groans for the revealing of the sons of God. Your perseverance is part of the unveiling of who God has called you to be. When you step fully into your promise, when you refuse to quit, you carry answers, healing, and deliverance for the world around you. Somebody's freedom is tied to your endurance. Somebody's breakthrough is tied to your faith. Somebody's hope is tied to your story. This is why you cannot quit. The impact is too great, the legacy too important, the assignment too significant. Think also of Esther. She endured the pressure of hiding her identity, of being placed in a palace not of her choosing, of facing the risk of death if she approached the king uninvited. But her endurance was not for her alone. Her endurance saved an entire people from destruction. For such a time as this, she stood, and because she endured, a nation survived. The courage it took for her to endure the process brought deliverance for those who could not fight for themselves. Your endurance is not just about your comfort. It's about being positioned to stand in the gap for others. The enemy would love for you to believe your battle is insignificant, that your endurance doesn't matter. But he knows better. He knows the ripple effect of your faith. He knows that if you endure, entire families will be changed, entire communities will be impacted, entire legacies will be rewritten. That is why the fight has been so fierce. That is why the pressure has been so heavy. The enemy is terrified not just of what you will receive, but of what others will receive through you. When you endure, you become a living testimony. People don't always believe words, but they cannot deny a life lived in endurance. Your scars preach louder than your sermons. Your survival speaks louder than your explanations. When people see that you went through the fire and came out without smelling like smoke, they will believe in the God who brought you out. Your endurance becomes a pulpit, your life becomes a message, and your breakthrough becomes an invitation for others to believe again. Generational blessings are unlocked by endurance. Isaac endured the famine and sowed in the land anyway, and he reaped 100-fold harvest. Jacob endured years of labor under Laban, and he walked away with wealth that blessed his family. Joseph endured betrayal and prison, and he became the provider for nations in famine. Every one of their stories teaches us that endurance births provision, not only for the one enduring, but for multitudes. Your ability to hold on in faith could be the very reason someone else survives their famine. So keep pressing, keep believing, keep enduring. Because your breakthrough is carrying more than your name. It's carrying your children, your family, your friends, your community, your generation. The reward of endurance is never limited to the one who endures. It overflows, it multiplies. It spills over into places and people you never even imagined. You are enduring not only for yourself, you are enduring for every soul connected to your destiny. There are moments in life when you stand so close to the edge of what God promised that every fiber of your being feels the tension. The road has been long, the nights have been weary, the battles have been heavy, and you are tempted to think it was all for nothing. But deep down, there is a stirring in your spirit that whispers, hold on a little longer. Victory is nearer than it looks. The finish line may be hidden to your natural eyes, but in the spirit it is right before you. What you prayed for, what you wept for, what you fought for, is closer than you think. You cannot quit now, because the promise is about to manifest. When a wall is about to crumble, the last strike of the hammer may not look different from the first, but it is the final blow that makes everything collapse. Each strike mattered. Each effort weakened the structure, but it was the last one that released the breakthrough. Many of you are striking, praying, believing, fasting, persevering, and you see no cracks in the wall. But don't mistake the silence of the process for the absence of results. Every step you've taken has been building momentum. Every prayer you've prayed has been shaking the foundation. Every act of faith has been setting the stage. The wall is weaker than it looks, and your next strike may be the one that brings it all down. The enemy knows how close you are, and that is why the pressure has intensified. That is why discouragement has been louder than usual, why fear has been pressing in, why doubts keep circling your mind. He sees that you are standing on the verge of what God declared, and his strategy is to get you to quit before you cross the threshold. If he cannot take the promise, he will try to take your endurance. But if you can see beyond the pressure, if you can discern that the closeness of the battle is proof of the nearness of breakthrough, you will find the strength to keep moving forward. Think about Jericho. The Israelites marched around those walls day after day, and for 6 days nothing changed. The walls did not shake, the bricks did not loosen, the ground did not tremble. Every day must have felt like futility. But on the seventh day, after the seventh march, at the sound of the trumpet and the shout of faith, the walls collapsed. The promise was closer than they realized, but they had to keep marching to see it. How many of us give up on day 6? How many walk away right before the walls are about to fall? What if your next shout, your next prayer, your next act of obedience is the very one that causes the breakthrough you've been waiting for? You may feel tired, and that is real. You may feel weary, and that is valid. Even Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane felt the weight of the cross before him. He prayed with such agony that his sweat became drops of blood. But he endured because he knew the victory was near. Beyond the suffering was resurrection. Beyond the pain was glory. Beyond the cross was the joy set before him. And because he pressed through, because he didn't quit, we now stand in salvation. His endurance purchased our redemption. If he could endure his darkest night, because he knew victory was near, then surely we can endure ours knowing that the same God is working for us. What God promised you is not in jeopardy. His word does not return void. His promises are yes and amen. The timing may not look like what you expected. The process may not feel like what you imagined, but the fulfillment is guaranteed. The closer you get, the more the enemy will try to distort your vision, whispering lies that say, "It's not going to happen. You misunderstood God. You wasted your time." But you must remind yourself of what God spoke. If he said it, he will do it. If he declared it, he will bring it to pass. His integrity is on the line, and he has never failed. Victory is closer than you think, but sometimes it requires you to act like it before you see it. Praise him like the walls have already fallen. Worship like the chains are already broken. Rejoice like the promise has already arrived. That is the language of faith. That is how you partner with heaven. Joshua told the people to shout before the walls fell, not after. Your willingness to celebrate before you see the results is proof that you truly believe. Praise becomes the sound that pulls tomorrow's promise into today's reality. Your posture in this moment matters. If you let weariness turn into quitting, you forfeit what is almost in your hands. But if you let weariness turn into worship, you strengthen yourself to go the final stretch. David encouraged himself in the Lord when everything at Ziklag was lost. He didn't have a choir backing him. He didn't have an army singing with him. He had to stir up his own spirit. And when he did, God gave him the strength to recover all. You may have to encourage yourself right now. You may have to speak over your own soul. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits. You may have to remind yourself that he who began a good work will finish it. Do not measure the distance by how far you've come. Measure it by the faithfulness of the one leading you. He didn't bring you this far to abandon you. He didn't carry you through the storm just to leave you at the shore. He didn't sustain you in the wilderness just to let you die on the edge of Canaan. If he kept you in the midnight hour, he will surely bring you into the morning. If he was faithful yesterday, he will be faithful tomorrow. Victory is not a matter of if. It is only a matter of when. The enemy wants you to confuse delay with denial. He wants you to think that because it hasn't happened yet, it won't happen at all. But God's timing is perfect. Some victories require alignment, preparation, and positioning. He may be arranging circumstances you cannot see, aligning people you have not met, and preparing opportunities you cannot yet comprehend. Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it isn't on the way. Just because you haven't held it doesn't mean it isn't real. Victory is closer than you think, and the silence of this season is only proof that God is still writing the final scene. Picture a runner in the last lap of a race. The body is exhausted. The lungs are burning, but the roar of the crowd grows louder because the finish line is near. The athlete digs deeper, pulling strength from reserves they didn't even know they had, because they know this is the moment everything has been leading to. That is where you are. You are in the last lap. It feels harder than ever because you are closer than ever. Do not stop running now. Do not stop pressing now. Everything you've endured has prepared you for this moment. Victory is not only for you. When you step into it, others will step into it with you. When you testify of what God did, others will believe He can do the same for them. Your victory becomes a beacon of hope. Your breakthrough becomes a doorway for others. That is why quitting is not an option. Too much is at stake. Too many are watching. Too many are waiting for the light of your story to guide them out of their own darkness. So stand tall, even if your knees shake. Keep walking, even if your steps are slow. Keep believing, even if doubts are whispering. You are closer than you think. The walls are about to fall. The promise is about to manifest. The harvest is about to be reaped. Victory is not far away. It is at the door knocking, waiting for you to hold on just a little longer. You've come too far to give up now. You've cried too many tears, prayed too many prayers, fought too many battles to walk away at the edge of your breakthrough. This is not the season to retreat. This is the season to press forward. The enemy has tried to wear you down, but what he doesn't know is that your weariness is proof. You've been pushing against resistance, and resistance only comes when you're advancing. If you were going nowhere, hell wouldn't fight you this hard. If you were standing still, the pressure wouldn't be this heavy. But the fact that you feel the weight right now is the evidence that you are standing on the threshold of what God promised. Don't quit in the hallway when the door is about to open. Don't die in the desert when the land is just ahead. Don't drop the baton when you are steps away from the finish line. This is the moment to square your shoulders, lift your head, and declare with boldness, I will not quit. I will not faint. I will not let go until I see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Your victory is closer than you think. Your promise is nearer than you realize. The walls are trembling, the ground is shifting, the heavens are aligning, and God is saying, hold on. I'm about to show you what I've been preparing all along. What He started in your life, He is faithful to complete. What He promised, He will deliver. What He spoke, He will perform. So lift your voice and give Him praise right where you are. Celebrate in advance, because the God who brought you this far is about to carry you the rest of the way. The pain will be worth it. The waiting will be worth it. The fight will be worth it. Because when the promise finally shows up, you'll realize that every tear, every trial, and every struggle was only proof that you were destined for this moment. Don't quit now. The promise is almost here.